everybody. Jim here from DrinkABeerandPlayAGame. Welcome to Power Hour Podcast, episode 258. Thank you for joining me tonight. Yes, I am flying solo once again. Unfortunately, Brian is still dealing with his personal stuff with his mom at home. She's on the mend, she's doing better, but he's still got a lot of work he's got in front of him, so hopefully by next week he will be back on like normal. He actually will probably have one of his short reviews for a Puppet Combo game coming out this week, so definitely keep an eye out for that. But yeah, once again, wish him and his mother all the best and hope to see them soon. Oh, hey everyone on the YouTube side, Future Jim here. After a ton of hardware problems, I had to go back and redo a lot of this episode, so when I look different, you know why. So let's get into the normal flow of things. Speaking of, what am I drinking tonight? And I'm actually making a concerted effort now to go through the rest of my Rush beer. This is the one that I went and picked up a year ago. Comes to us from, yes, Fulton Brewing out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. So they originally had a deal where they were only distributing this in Canada. So when I picked this up last year, I actually had to drive like 2 hours out of my way to get to the one local brewery that was, or a beer store that like had a whole shipment of them. So I went, I got a case. I've been giving out to some to buddies here and there. They seem to like it, but it's getting close to a year that I've had this case probably. And yeah, I'm probably on borrowed time for it to still be good. I have kept it out of the sun completely. It is a glass bottle. And these newer, darker bottles keep the beer better from getting skunked, and it's been staying in a box the whole time too. For anyone out there who doesn't know, the whole cold, warm, cold thing isn't really a huge problem with beer for the most part. The biggest problem is going to be if it's in a bottle and left out in the sun. Then you're asking for it to be skunked. So Heineken, those old green bottles are even, or I guess they're what, from Europe or maybe just the older style glass. Brian, this is where I need Brian to educate me on this, but I do believe that is more prone to being skunked because it has the lighter color more sunlight can get through. Whereas the darker bottles don't. But even then, you still want to play it careful. But yes, I'm using my Tipple glass right here with good old Sonic the Hedgehog. Still has a nice aroma to it. 5.5% alcohol. A beautiful, nice, crisp, golden ale. Still has some decent carbonation. And that lacing just, I don't know if you can see it in the camera here, but that sticks to the glass for a while. It's very smooth. I kind of remember having it more of a bite when it was very fresh. So I don't know, maybe it's better a little bit aged. I don't want to be one of these, you got to age your beer for it to be good, because that's definitely not what you want. And I'm sure this isn't a flavor profile that the brewer wanted out of it, but no, still a very good, very enjoyable, definitely get that breadiness to it a little bit in there too. That's a word, I say. Brian knows the breadiness. I think I know it at this point after 10 years, but I am a slow learner. Moving on to what have I been playing lately? Absolutely nothing. I haven't played a damn thing. But I recorded this, late last week and had to turn around in like a day and a half to get it uploaded on time. So that chewed up time, and then my weekend was just insane. Hopefully I can get to a little bit more gaming soon. I'm also back to practicing with my band once a week because we're opening for Sponge at the end of May. So it's kind of like the biggest show we've ever done. We're pretty excited for it, but we're definitely taking the practices seriously when we do them once a week now. It's one of those kind of sets where like you go in there playing your quote-unquote greatest hits, like the songs that we could play in our sleep just to make sure we put our best foot forward. But should definitely be a fun time. Check it out. My band is called Fusion 35. I'll put a link to it below. And the gig's at Kung Fu Necktie in Philly. Maybe I'll see some of you there. That'd be cool. But if not, I am definitely going to try to start in on Postal 2 this week, hopefully, because that is the next Patreon review that we have. And, of course, when it comes to Patreon and the review, you can head on over, guys, you know the deal at this point, patreon.com/DrinkABeerandPlayAGame, where for as little as $2 a month, you can ask a question that we will answer on each and every single one of these Power Hour podcasts. So, first up from Burn Retinas, can you think of an example of a boss fight where the challenge is legitimately fair and not cheap? Of boss fights where the challenge is fair. I mean, I always go back to like Streets of Rage 2. I mean, there's That game does a good job of weaning you into the boss fights and the difficulty curve there. I mean, there's really a ton of games out there with good, fair boss fights. Maybe if we want to talk like final boss fights, because a lot of final boss fights are all about being cheap and making you really put to the test everything you've learned throughout the entire course of the game. So those can definitely get tricky. Like, I would not say Thunder Ray that I just played just because that final boss fight is such a jump in difficulty from the rest of the game. So you want something definitely the opposite of that. Or even, like, or maybe keep it in the Punch-Out theme. Maybe Mike Tyson? I mean, it's a guy I've never beaten and I've never taken the time to beat. But by the time you get up to him, you should have acquired the skills through all the other fights that, sure, he's really, really hard. And if he hits you once, you're basically dead. But at that point, it's kind of like, get good. I would love to use like some kind of FromSoft game example, but I think my 20 hours in Elden Ring did not give me enough time. And most of the bosses I fought in that were still kicking my ass left and right. I mean, maybe if you do like the real Andross fight in Star Fox 64, because it's got the two Andross fights. So you have the slightly easier one on the easy ending, and then the tough one with the multiple stages on the hard ending. And that's another one where it's like, you really have to know your stuff by the end of the game to be ready for him and to be ready in the all-range mode. It does a little bit of everything that you've done in the game up to that point. So I think that's a pretty fair one. Most Bowser fights I don't think are especially that hard, so I wouldn't even call them fair. I'd call them too easy, almost. And then, like, on the flip side, you have, like, the Dr. Robotnik fights at the end of Sonic games, and a ton of them are just utter bullcrap. Like, I still think the Death Egg robot fight at the end of Sonic 2 is probably the most annoying one of all, just because you have no rings, so you can't mess up, and you have to go to Silver Sonic before you get to to Eggman, and if you screw up once, you do it all again. God, I hate that fight. But at the end of the day, there's just a ton of them out there. It's actually kind of tough to think of a legitimately fair and good one, because so many, like I said, are either utter bullcrap or are too easy and leave you unsatisfied. So, this is actually one I'm going to throw it out to you guys out there. Please head on over to the YouTube side of things if you're listening on iTunes or Spotify. Leave some comments there. Let me know what you think are some of like the most fair final boss fights out there. Maybe we'll put a little review list together based on your suggestions. Alright, and next up from Todd Howard Sucks, what gaming company / studio has had the biggest fall from grace? Oh my god, where do I begin? So many to pick from here. And if it sounds like I'm blowing through this section, it's because I'm also redoing this section again after I was already editing everything together. Just when I'm out, disaster strikes again this episode. But regardless, companies that have fallen from grace. Look at all the contenders you have. You have Konami, one of the kings of the 8 and 16-bit era. What are they reduced to now? Bad remasters of Ghouls and Goats, new Contra games that are decent at the absolute very best. They've put out some amazing collections lately with some really good content in it. But outside of that, they have just fallen off the map completely as a AAA high-end developer in the past 10, 15 years. I mean, we're never going to probably see another Metal Gear game, again, because of the whole Kojima thing. So, Konami, they are insane and on their own little island. And then again, you have Bethesda, who is one of my favorite developers. Like, from mid-2000s until, the early 2010s, they could do no wrong. Skyrim still ported to this day to every console and system imaginable. But what have they had lately? They had Starfield, which was a massive disappointment. Like, someone even as Bethesda-pilled as Brian never finished it. And he worships those games. Then Fallout 76, like, that's only popular now because of the TV show, but until then, that was a complete joke forever. Like, I'm worried about a Fallout 5 or an Elder Scrolls 6, whatever would come first, because they're not evolving with the times. They're still, like, kind of buggy messes. The last-gen graphics, they're just stuck in a rut at this point. Maybe you want to talk about Blizzard. What the hell's happened to Blizzard lately? You're not going to get any more, like, niche little fun titles like Lost Vikings, and you're sure shit not going to get the same quality of like StarCraft. Never hear anything of StarCraft since the end of StarCraft 2. People seem to like Diablo 4. So that came out, and that was a pretty good hit for them. So they're very up and down, especially with that whole debacle over that mobile game that they had. And then, I mean, is the easy answer Rare? Should I just go with Rare? Who is kind of an overrated developer in general, because they have sucked way more than they were good. And I'm not even talking about after the whole Microsoft acquisition. Before the N64 era, they weren't that good of a developer. Like, you had all these kind of weird titles out there, stuff you would have never believed was them, and they were, again, okay at best. Then they really hit their stride in the N64 days where they could basically do no wrong, except for Donkey Kong 64. Fuck that game. And then, you had the whole Microsoft purchase. Everyone who was working there, who worked on those banger games, left. And yeah, we're left with a shell of a company that, again, barely puts out titles, and the ones they do, lukewarm reception at best, if not outright terrible. So I think for the absolute legacy and the heights that they had to the fall, I'm kind of stuck between Konami and Rare, but Konami still isn't just as dead in the water as Rare is at this point. So Rare gets the W or the L. However you want to, weigh that. Haha! So once again, thank you to everyone out there for the support. Head on over to Patreon. Make sure you check out all the tiers for bonus episodes, bonus reviews, movie review requests, game review requests. And we are also on iTunes and Spotify and YouTube, so depending on what platform you're listening to, once again, please hit up any of the other ones. Make sure to leave subscriptions, comments. It all helps the page out. All right, we are back. Definitely as this beer gets warmer, you get more of that flavor profile again. So you definitely get a ton of malt out of this. Maybe the slightest hint of hops in the back end of your throat, but really, this is a very well done beer, and it's mixed together great. And luckily for really everyone out there, but especially for Rush fans, you can now get this in the United States. So it had its trial run in Canada for about a year or two, but yeah. Now if you contact Fulton online, you can order it right from them. I did not look up the price, so I cannot tell you what it is, and I imagine shipping, depending on where you live, will be a pain. So I just talked about comments helping the page, and I'm bringing back an old bit we haven't done in a while. Comment of the week. So when you're a page like ours, we're not the biggest channel in the world, so for the most part, we have our core audience that's very supportive, always wanting to have a conversation. But luckily, we do get more random people who eventually stumble upon it, will leave a comment. And I would love to have more of that. Please leave those comments because it leads to discussion. So this one was actually from a couple episodes back in episode 255, and I think they went and deleted it. I don't know why. I know Brian, I don't think he did. I know I didn't. But it goes, can you two pass the line test, please? Righty being a straight line, while lefty being a tilted line towards righty is upsetting me. Not as much as Dylan Mulvaney's Girlhood music video, but it's about 3 to 7 steps removed. Alright, we need some punctuation in that sentence, first off. But, if you're asking about our politics and crap like that, I know Brian definitely tries to stay away from that subject as much as possible. I'm a little bit more of an open book, if you want to know where I stand, as if that matters on a dumb gaming podcast, but let's put it this way. I was raised Catholic and the son of a cop. So, yeah, this will not be a shock to realize that I was born and raised very righty. But being the social media guy, I've been exposed to way more different conversations that I ever really kind of expected to. So I honestly don't know where I stand right now. I'm still very much in that thing of I don't want you to touch my money, but I also don't really care how anyone wants to live their life. So yeah, I'm in a weird spot. Is that the libertarian ideal until, they hop on Twitter and talk about age of consent nonstop and ruin it for everybody? So, you can't even say that because everyone just immediately rolls their eyes. So yeah, I don't know what the hell I am right now. I just kind of take it as I go. Oh, Jimmy's struggling internally. And when it comes to that Dylan Mulvaney music video, that's where you cross the line, sir, because no one likes that video. Everyone you see, except for Dylan's most hardcore fans, whether it's people all the way on the right or like super hard leftists, they all looked at that and went, what are we doing here? Like, it's kind of funny when you see it just because, like, again, we said it 1,000 times, like, Dylan did not deserve all the bullshit that happened over the Bud Light scandal. But it doesn't mean she's not an annoying theater kid. Now, there's one thing that can bring everyone together. It is a hatred of theater kids. So, there you go. But, yeah, hope that fence-sitting answer answered your question for you. But, hey, thanks for reaching out. So, moving on to the topics and the news of the week. And first off, let's start with some console talk. And this comes to us, I'm too used to assuming Brian's here with me. So I'm recording this on the 29th. This article was posted last Thursday. And yeah, Xbox console sales are tanking. No wonder Microsoft is exploring bringing its games to the PlayStation 5. This comes to us from Kotaku by Ethan Gach. Gach? I don't know. So it starts off, after months of debate about Xbox's future as some of its big console exclusive jump ship to the PlayStation 5, we have our clearest evidence yet of why Microsoft is experimenting with a new multi-platform approach. Fewer and fewer people are buying Xboxes. The tech giant announced its third quarter earnings that the Xbox Series X and S revenue was down 30% year over year. It blamed a nosedive on a quote-unquote lower volume of consoles sold. Duh? During the start of 2024. If that sounds like a repeat of last year, it's because it is. Xbox hardware revenue decreased 30% on a strong prior year comparable, driven by lower volume of console sales, Microsoft reported back in April of 2023. So, it's 2 years in a row where they've lost 30% in sales from the year before. That's not good. In February, Grand Theft Auto 6 parent company Take-Two claimed that in a presentation to investors, there were roughly 77 million Gen 9 consoles in people's homes. It didn't take fans long to do the math and speculate that Microsoft had only sold around 25 million Xbox Series consoles to date. That puts it ahead of the GameCube, but behind the N64 at least for now. Given the results of this quarter as well, it doesn't seem like Game Pass and Starfield have moved the needle much. Uh-oh. So there is speculation that might change once Call of Duty makes its way to Game Pass, and Diablo 4 only arrived on the subscription platform this month. But given the fact that the fate of it appears to be locked at this point, it's easy to see why Microsoft is looking at other places to put its games. So Sea of Thieves, that was a big name, that was an exclusive game by Microsoft, and it recently got put on PS5 for pre-order as of last week, and it's topping the chart over there, which is kind of crazy. And, I mean, there's some more to this article and all that stuff. It goes into where, Microsoft has famously made all these acquisitions. They bought Activision Blizzard. They bought Bethesda. They've bought so many people, and people are still not buying Microsoft consoles. This kind of like spits in the face of everyone who was like crying about Monopoly during that whole Activision deal, thinking it's going to ruin the video game industry. Now we're only about, not even a year into that acquisition happening, so there still remains to be seen on that front. But not a great first impression, that's for sure. But it'll be interesting to see Call of Duty go into Game Pass, though, right away. And another thing on top of that, though, a lot of that's on Game Pass on console is also on PC. And the more and more games that there are very few exclusive they have that they put from Xbox to multiplat, it's just going to add more reason to why even buy an Xbox at that point. Like, I love Xbox. I have loved Xbox since the 360 days. Like, I enjoyed the original, but I didn't own it until a couple years ago. But yeah, then you get to the 360, which is probably going to be one of my favorite consoles of all time, no matter what. It'll always be a top 3, just for how much fun and revolutionary it felt. Like, how fresh Xbox Live, and how perfect it felt all the way back in 2005, when I think a lot of series and systems for like an all-in-one online gaming platform really still don't meet it as well or as easy. And then like the Xbox One was a disaster since day one. The series has been a disaster. And it comes down to exclusives. The Xbox just doesn't have exclusives. They buy up all these companies. You have all this hoopla about Monopoly and you can't let all these deal through. And it doesn't matter. no one's buying them because there's no games people want. And now that they know that the games they do want can go on to Sony or especially to PC, which is already integrated with Game Pass, why ever buy one? So yeah, they're still going to keep consoles. They're going to, keep their name out there. It'll just be a loss leader for them. But they can just rake in all the cash with Game Pass and making the games from companies they do own, like Bethesda and Activision, make it multi-plat and just rake in that kind of money that way. So we're in a weird time for consoles. You don't want it to be a thing where it's only dominated by Sony. Because right now, Nintendo, they're in their own little world. I'll get to them in a second. But you basically have between Sony, Microsoft, and PC. And Microsoft and PC are pretty intertwined at this point, outside of Steam, obviously. And then you have the Epic Games of the world and all that other bullcrap. But yeah, you don't want the console market dominated in the AAA space by one company. Because competition is very important. Exclusives are a necessary evil. I get not wanting to have to buy two consoles to be able to play all the games out there, but throw everything under one umbrella. See how well that'll happen. Do you think $70 games with microtransactions are bad now? Wait until there's only one real horse in the game. So, good luck with that. But speaking of the current state of consoles, this comes to us from Video Games Chronicle. The Switch 2 will reportedly have magnetic Joy-Cons and might not support the existing ones. So, all of this data was reported through the Spanish video game site Vandal, which received information from peripheral manufacturers. And if there's anyone out there who needs to know about the hardware of a system, it's going to be the people making the hardware for the system. So, it kind of makes sense. And Vandal has some cred because they got a lot of early information about the OLED Switch when that came out in 2021. They were pretty much right about it. So I'm going to make a little leap of faith and say they're probably on the money with this. So Joy-Cons will be connected magnetically to the new Switch console, which I'm so old, I'm still like, magnets, electronics, bad, no touchy. But, obviously still don't mess around with really high powerful magnets, but it is kind of cool. I don't see how the old Joy-Cons can fit unless you make some kind of attachment, which at that point you would just want to buy new Joy-Cons anyway because the old ones suck. I love sticks that drift and are too small. It's wonderful. I never hated the Joy-Cons that much. But regardless, they are, hardware-wise, a sack of shit. But it's also been reported that the internal launch has been delayed until 2025, mostly for two real theories out there, which are stronger first-party support for the console and to avoid hardware issues, or hardware supply issues. So, we've said it before, I don't know what the Switch is going to be releasing, the Switch 2, whatever the hell the system is going to be, because they've already milked all their major franchises. You're not going to have a Zelda at launch like you did with the Switch. Maybe a new Mario 3D platformer? Maybe. But maybe Metroid Prime 4. But really, right now, there's nothing building that, super crazy hype train around it. But what you do have is a gigantic install base from the Switch 1, so a lot of people will just buy the Switch 2 just to continue, especially if they make it backwards compatible. Oh, for the love of God, please make it backwards compatible. So that's not the only Switch-related hardware peripheral releases that we've been getting, and drops, rumors, whatever you want to call it. So actually, on Tuesday, the 30th, an article dropped on InsiderGaming.com. The Nintendo Switch will be backwards compatible and support 4K, it is claimed. So, the question here is, who is claiming it? So this time it's coming from another third-party controller peripheral person called Mobipad, who I have never heard of before. So, yes, the Switch 2 Joy-Cons will use magnets to connect to the console. In the process of developing the next-gen controller, Mobipad has acquired a lot of first-hand information about the Switch 2, and we are here to share about it, they said. The Joy-Cons will use magnetic suction, which is achieved through electromagnetic suction technology, controlled by electric current. So, that's interesting. New controllers will feature metal SL and SR buttons, as well as a third button on both the left and right side. Also, last-gen Joy-Cons will still work on the new system in a wireless capacity. So yes, according to the company, the Switch 2 will support backwards compatibility for physical games, along with 4K resolution when docked, and in handheld mode, it'll have 1080p resolution through an 8-inch display. So, again, Nintendo has not confirmed any of this. No one has confirmed any of this. It's all through third-party peripheral people, but again, if anyone should know what's going on here, it'll probably be them. So, I don't even care about the 4K resolution. Just give me a stronger Switch. Give me one that'll be more powerful, run the games better, maybe a better battery life. And yeah, backwards compatibility right out of the gate. I mean, that would be so clutch. And that would probably make it a day one buy for me. So, interesting times we are in as we approach, under a year now before the Switch 2 is slated to be released, or whatever the hell they wind up calling it. Who knows at this point? But, yeah, if this turns out to be true, I'll probably be a day one buyer, like I said. So, yeah, we will be following this as more stuff develops, but backwards compatibility? Fingers crossed. Give me what I want, Nintendo. But, if they don't, they're still going to get an assload of sales just from the install base at the Switch 1. And if you're going to be banking on the pay pigs, you need to have something to put in the piggies' hands if you're not going to have software that anyone out there is going to really want. So, they're walking a fine line here. The delay makes sense in that point, but interesting. And also, of note, the current Pro controller should work for the new system. So, that's cool. And almost means it has to keep the Switch moniker at that point, you would think, but I'm sure that remains to be seen. We're in some interesting times when it comes to these hardware manufacturers and these console distributors, and really, Nintendo still, because they do have some big games on the horizon still. I think they're still trying to make a big legitimate push for that 152 number that the PlayStation 2 has. 152, 154, whatever it is. Paper Mario, Thousand Year Door, one of the most beloved GameCube games, is coming to the Switch with a remaster. It's going to be adding a couple more puzzles, new game mode, I think a side quest with Peach, and some quality of life improvements like switching between characters a whole lot easier, all that kind of good stuff. But it's Nintendo, late stage console Nintendo, so of course there has to be some controversy around it too. The first being that people are upset with dialogue changes. I don't know if they're saying this is straight up censorship, but there's certain people with new lines. The music's been changed. They're not just bringing over the classic soundtrack. And in the original trailer, it sounded like there were more remixes of the original songs. Whereas what's being shown lately to early people and early media is pretty much completely different. And then there's the big one. It's only running at 30 frames per second. The original ran at 60. So a game on an 8th gen system can't run the same performance for a game that was on a 6th gen system. Obviously there's more that's been added here, and it is going to be a very good looking game. But the Switch is just showing its age at this point. And there's a real possibility that Paper Mario is kind of known for its timing based, especially in Thousand Year Door. It has like these super counter moves that you have to be super precise about. And you're not going to get that precision from 30 frames when you were built around 60. Obviously, the hope is that they planned for that and built the game engine around that. But still, it's like, man, I know we're 7 years into the console lifespan here, but how are you going to push out a game that runs at half the frames of a 20-some-year-old game at this point? It's just weird. And I don't know if it's Nintendo not letting it cook long enough, or if everything they threw in there is just pushing the system to its max too much. Either way, 2025 can't come soon enough for us Switch owners, honestly. So we briefly talked on censorship and changing lines and changing things in a game, but we were talking about a remaster of an old game. What about a game that gets patched and it's brand new and has an incredible hype train around it, and now it's the epicenter of the gaming culture war? Yep. I'm going to take a very quick beer break, and we are going to talk about StellarBlade. Alright, let's get into the main event. This is probably try number 4 of me trying to do this segment. I was thinking of returning my new mixer, but I'm 3 days out of the window for Amazon returns, so lucky me. So yeah, I'm going to be doing a lot of trial and error to try and get this shit to work, but yes, on to the main event, StellarBlade, the game that no one can stop talking about at this point. This is, alright, for anyone who doesn't know out there, it is a game that was hyped up last year during a Nintendo State of Play by a Korean company called Shift Up. And this is, imagine Devil May Cry mixed with Bayonetta, mixed with FromSoft, basically, from what I hear. You play a main character called Eve, who is scantily clad, going through some kind of futuristic fighting robot world with kind of more Soulsborne-y kind of, very precise input, reaction, parry-based combat. From what I hear, I have not played it yet. I haven't even played the demo. So the game went through, all the hype cycle. Shift Up famously on Twitter said that they would not be censoring the game in any way for any of the regions. So the game comes out and they release a patch for it. Patch 1.0.0.2. So what did this patch do? Well, it did some performance increases. It made the input lag a little bit more precise. And it also messed with some of the costumes. Most famously, the one called the Rabbit costume, which originally was just a very, almost swimsuity. It was very cleavage heavy, cut right down the middle, boobs as far as the eye can see, nice little tight, pants in the back there, good butt protrusion, and the patch put a piece of cloth in there and put a little bit more cloth in the asshole region. That's a word. I guarantee that's a word. It's not a word. But, yes, so that bit of cover-up, which, weird choice, but, yeah. The internet lost its goddamn mind over this. And it has been going on for about probably at least a week now, if not more. And this is probably the worst time that something like this could have happened because we are in the throes of Gamergate 2 and the whole DEI, Sweet Baby Incorporated, all the grifting going around left and right, journalists fighting with YouTubers. It's just, oh my god. The discourse right now. Oh god, the discourse. It's so terrible and mind-numbing. Why am I the social media guy? What gypsy did I kick in a past life to be cursed with this? But here I am, reporting on the news. So, first things first. It was actually brought up to the developers in a press conference, asking them basically about the issue that comes around with this censorship. And they said that, according to them, this was their original intent for this costume and how the character was supposed to look, but they're going to talk about it internally. So I will get to my opinions on that in a little bit. But from there, a voice of the people, of a man among men, most alpha of Chads, a man known as Mark Kern, Grummz on Twitter, your friend and mine. He decided, no, this will not stand. I will not allow you to do this. You cannot rip my titties from me or from the gamers out there. And he started a petition. And it's called FreeStellarBlade, and it goes such as this. Stellar Blade is a phenomenal new game that just launched on PlayStation 5 worldwide. But it has a problem. Started a sentence with but. It's bad grammar. The content has been censored from the original trailer version posted by Sony. We, as gamers, want this content back. We relied on it. We made the game the #1 pre-order worldwide because of it. And this is the true game we want. Stellar Blade is more than a game. It has become a cultural beacon for freedom of expression in a time where game publishers like Sony are censoring games more than ever. Stellar Blade was a breath of fresh air, and gamers rallied behind it because it meant things were changing, getting better, and the voice of creative freedom was ringing loud and clear. But for reasons unknown, the game was censored. Changes were made. What we received after our good faith purchase was not the same as advertised. We believe in the game. We believe in Shift Up, and we are asking to get the game we believe in. Revert the censorship changes, patch the game, and you will find that even more gamers will join you and support you. All gamers can help by signing this petition. It will be printed in Korea and delivered in Korea to Shift Up offices, and physically printed and delivered to Sony PlayStation North America offices. Spread this petition on social media with the hashtag FreeStellarBlade hashtag. As of this, second recording, really fifth, as of 9:30 p.m. on Tuesday the 30th, it currently has 60,184 signatures of a 75,000 signature goal. The gamers are rallying around this. Are these the gamers you really want on your side, though? Because, yes, you can upload a video to this petition to really drive that point home. obviously, if you scroll through these submissions, there are going to be a lot of people, especially now, who are taking the piss out of this. Like, there's one I saw where a guy just starts, like, eating a statue that he had from King of Fighters. So, yeah. People are really starting to goof on this whole thing now, but so many people are really taking this super seriously. And it's not just the people who are saying this is wrong, because the people who are saying this is wrong has people telling them that this is wrong. And who else but to guide that light better than Kotaku? And here I am thinking yesterday that they had blessed me with a gift on the day of my initial recording, dropping this article on there. So this is a commentary article, which means, like, I'm sure that means an opinion piece. It's not just like a straight up news article, I guess. Oh boy. The StellarBlade censorship circus explained. Patched sexy outfits have become one of the saddest rallying cries in gaming. This was by Ethan Gach, whatever, Gach, however you say that. So StellarBlade is a PlayStation 5 sci-fi action exclusive about fighting monsters and saving humanity in a stylish post-apocalyptic world. So why are thousands of its self-identified fans signing a petition to free StellarBlade from censorship? The answer is surprisingly complicated and kind of sad. So, as you can tell, this is going to be a very unbiased article. Former Blizzard developer turned online angry gamer grifter Mark Curran recently posted a Change.com petition calling for altered content from a previous version of StellarBlade to be restored by developer ShiftUp. So yeah, basically it goes to all the lines from the thing that I just read, and it kind of goes from there, saying, oddly, the petition never explicitly says what the alleged censorship is, which is sexy outfits that were nerfed in the pre-release update. The main protagonist, Eve, has big boobs and a bigger butt, but some of her most revealing costumes received minor alterations from what's on the unpatched discs version of the game. So, actually, funny enough, this is leading to people buying up the physical release of the game in droves to have the unaltered copy. Kind of like what I did with Sea of Stars, to have the Droid to Completionist version. I'd be lying if I said that there wasn't a sick part of me that kind of wants to buy this too for that same reason. Ugh. I'm a sick man. What do you want from me? You know what I am. I have a collector sickness. I can't help it. Oh yeah, also there was graffiti in the game that said hard. And next to it was a place called the R Shop. So just the letter R and shop. So if you look at it together, it says hard R. If you don't know what hard R means, look up Linus Tech Tips, hard R, and have yourself a laugh. It's basically the N-word. So there you go. But please just watch that Linus fit. It's so good. I fucking hate Linus. But yes, the article says it's an unintentional N-word reference because the developer said that's unintentional. I'll just get to my point on that right now. I'm calling bullshit on that. Because a lot of people in the West will still like keep up on some things in the East. So I think there's a good chance someone knew about that and was being a little cheeky. But since they're from Korea, they can just go, oh, we had no idea. Oh, what an oopsie. And, the journos will go, well, the developer never lied to us about this. So, I'm on to you. But yes, the article from there just goes on to bash the people signing the petition, bashing Grummz, bashing the entire movement, and putting it all back to Gamergate and Sweet Baby Inc. and all of that stuff. So yeah, this is about as firebrand an article as you're going to get, which led to reactions, as one would expect. Which leads us to this week's Gamers Mad. I almost thought I wasn't going to have one. But oh Jimmy, thank you Kotaku. I really hope you never go away because you really are just the gift that keeps on giving for podcasters like me. So there are a ton of comments. So people going, the only circus here is your site that's run like a bunch of clowns. Don't you have some game guides to write? Kotaku is literally the last place I'd look for an explanation in an ongoing controversy regarding games media. Your bias is so obvious it's downright palpable, as seen through the lenses of woke journos. Get bent, Kotaku. I mean, the bias is palpable. There's no denying that here. And then there's one from an account called GigaBear, which says, I stopped reading at calling Grummz a grifter. Please try to do actual journalism next time. Which, for some odd reason, has 540 likes. It has a lot of attention and a lot of comments just flowing in. And at first you're thinking, Well, it's because he's defending Grummz from being a grifter. This GigaBear guy apparently called Grummz a grifter in the past. So why would this random account with like 120 followers be interesting at all? Well, it's because as of today, there was a tweet posted by a Nick Calandra, who is, I guess, he's the co-founder and editor-in-chief of Second Wind Group. So he is a former editor-in-chief of The Escapist. So yeah, Second Wind, all that stuff. So he is a journalist, and he has been going hard at Grummz and looking into him because he hates Grummz. Grummz is a notorious grifter. Grummz used to work at Blizzard, but he hasn't worked in the game industry in about 10 years. He basically lives on Twitter at this point, and he's been trying to get a bunch of different video games off the ground under like his banner. And so far, 3 of them have failed. So he put this tweet out there saying, I have official confirmation now on Mark Kern concerning GigaBear, his top backer. He's the top backer, eventually put 15 grand into this one video game he's doing, the most recent one. So, speaking positively on a project from GigaBear himself, I received an anonymous tip that confirms what I've suspected in my reporting. This is the tweet from GigaBear. The tweet from GigaBear confirms this convo happened. So, I'm not going to go through the entire thing, but he's in a Discord DM with another game developer called Rustin Nail. And they're going back and forth. He's saying, Rustin's like, apparently you've been a problem in several communities. Gig is going, is this about that stupid journo smearing me, isn't it? So they're going back and forth. Rustin's going, tell me what's going on with Grummz or I'm kicking you out. I guess it's another game that he's working on or trying to work on with this guy. So GigaBear eventually goes, you can't tell anyone about this. Mark said he would pay me back $15,000 and had me sign an agreement to support him publicly. I had to sub to his Twitter, reply all the time, and help him push the DEI stuff. And I have to pretend I'm still a backer even though I only have game access and all of my stuff is gone. He's a grifter and I would do anything about it. He'll keep my money. So then they both basically go back and forth. And GigaBear's tweet that Nick was talking about was saying, regarding the last tweet that I deleted, I probably shouldn't talk about it, but yeah, pretty sure I just got deep sixed in another game project. After a conversation, I got kicked out of the Discord. So yeah, Rustin Nail booted him out, I guess. It was never public and it was probably going to fail anyway, so it's whatever. And after that, this GigaBear is basically, he's kind of like making himself a main character and talking about like his arc and the twist in his story and stuff. Really self-aggrandizing himself, so I kind of hate him. But he seems annoying, but he's saying that he's going to wait a couple days and give his official response to this. So, he's still kind of defending Grummz-ish, even though in the past, before all this went down, he called Grummz a grifter himself. And did it in these tweets. So, his balls might be the fire on this. And that's not the only casualty of what's going on right now. And not so much a casualty because she kind of brought it on herself, but there's a Twitch streamer out there named Denims TV. So yeah, she's one of these people who like hates Gamergate, hates Grummz, hate everything that's going on right now. And a couple days ago, she was doing a stream talking about everything where she said, basically along the lines of that she'll put up 20 grand for anyone to take him out. So this was included in an Asmongold video, and for those who don't know, Asmongold is one of the biggest Twitch streamers out there. He does a lot of, commentary, talks about the subjects of the day, and he was doing one basically based around, like, people's reactions to Grummz and how some are taking it too far, in his mind. And, that was included in there. And Grummz just started using that as a rallying cry, saying, look at this is what they're trying to do to me, this is them, they're trying to kill me, they're trying to kill my movement, all this stuff like that. He was complaining about his hashtag being throttled and shadow banned and all kinds of woe is me stuff. It was more fuel for his fire, basically. And then about a day or two later, Denims was back on and she said, you know what? Why don't we up it to 30 grand and make Eve's boobs bigger too? If you do both, I'll give you 30 grand. So she's obviously like joking about it, but she's also been in trouble with Twitch before. So right now she is going everywhere trying to comb and get rid of evidence of herself saying that through any clips. I believe she's striking tweets right now. This Dixerto tweet that I have down here below had a subtweet of what she said, and what she said is gone now. So, yeah, maybe she's going even after that. I don't know. That's just my projection hearsay. I mean, Grummz is just taking that grift right to the moon, making himself the eternal victim. Not just saying that all gamers are victims, but now he is the biggest victim at all, and everyone has to rally around him. Alright, so with the timeline and all the news out of the way, what does old Jimmy think about this? So, let's hit this subject by subject here. Look at me, I even made little notes for myself over here. A&I professional. First up, with the censorship, do I think Sony forced this publisher, Sony of America I should say, to censor the game? Yes. Why do I say yes? Well, one, I could be wrong about this. I should have looked into it more for other regions, but I don't hear of the censorship happening in other regions. And Grummz' thing is about North America, Sony, so I have to assume yes. And why? Is it because I think they're out for DEI? Do I think Sweet Baby has them by the balls telling them what to do? No. And I say that thanks to this podcast, because years ago we talked about the issue of Sony censorship. Sony censorship has been an issue for the real hardcore, like, anime, Kotaku kind of people not Kotaku, otakus, for forever. Like, they have been rallying for years about Sony censorship, mostly to deaf ears, because everything they've been talking about has been these small little projects. Games that are very niche, and they're coming over and being published by companies like PQ Games and stuff like that, where they've had constant issues with the quality of the translations that are going on in the game, and with the costume changes. Now, the costume changes I can kind of get, because it's probably just an easy, hey, Lolly's a thing over there, let's just not take that risk with these games. So that I can go, fine. Like, I like me some cartoon titties as the next guy, but some of their drawings, man, they say they're 18, and I go, that she looks 4. It's ridiculous over there. Yeah, I can kind of see that point. The real unfortunate part, though, is the actual language translations, because it really changes the tone of dialogue. It can change the tone of the story in general, so that could be a major problem. And it's been going on since midway through the PlayStation 4 life cycle, I'd have to say. So as far as that goes, I don't even care what the developer says, because, yeah, I get it's like one costume, or a couple costumes, and it just seems, and they're saying that this is how we envision these costumes to be the whole time. Which to me, it's like, well, if it's what you envisioned it, why didn't you address that through your hundreds and hundreds of hours of play timing, or of all the feedback that you got during the demo session of the game? So, I don't buy it. I just take it as Sony of America said, hey, if you want us to keep publishing your games, and this is going to be a huge seller for you, you have to do this. And so, company, you got to save face, toe the corporate line. Happens to everybody. Next up, Grummz. Do I think he's right? Do I think he's on the side of justice for gamers? No! He's a total grifter. He's been around since day one of the first Gamergate. He wasn't Milo or Sargon or any of those kind of people. He wasn't that famous back then. And he slowly went more off the deep end over time, but he's always been anti-journalist, anti-games insider, and anti-industry, everything like that. Like I said, he's been trying to get 3 games off the ground, and the GigaCat, or Giga Panda guy, he's involved in like the most recent game that I think didn't meet its fundraising goal. So he's had 3 games fail. So everything for him is just a rallying cry around him, and I don't know about these change.org petitions and how the donations go, because there are money donations, and there's been a couple grand thrown into it already. So I don't know if he gets a whole chunk of that and the rest goes to change.org. Possibly does. So if that's the case, he's milking these pay pigs and these poor, sad guys out there who are making these videos and embarrassing himself on the internet. Again, a lot are being funny, and there's ones who are being very genuine about it. And there's a lot of them, though, like, I don't want to make fun of these guys. Like, they're just lonely dudes who, like, gaming or anime or Japanese, Korean culture is like their life. And not to take that away from it, it just happens. It sucks that like the Kotaku article instantly goes, oh, all these stupid incels who can't, get the touch of a real woman out here begging for cartoon titties. It's like, well, that's not going to help them. That's not going to make them less mad at you, or less mad at the game, or less mad at these changes. I mean, what these guys really honestly need is for like prostitution to be destigmatized, so they can just go to a strip club and get a handy from a stripper, get a little release and some human contact, and get that oh so precious post-nut clarity and realize, man, this shit doesn't matter. Like, everyone's still saying the game's actually fun. They're saying the soundtrack's an absolute banger. So all the uproar over here is, it's over cartoon titties. I know they're saying it's over censorship in general, but like, this is the biggest example of this coming to a head with Sony of America. So, because everyone's kind of saying, why aren't they doing this for games that have blatant sex and blatant nudity in it? Like, huge games. Last of Us 2, Baldur's Gate 3, all of them. And it's that Asian bias that they have going on here. They tread very lightly when it comes to them and what they bring over to us and what they will import. So, yeah, that's the thing with Sony of America. It is kind of a problem. But, again, I still don't think, at least when it comes to a little bit more cloth over cleavage, that it's that big of a deal. That it's worth giving some guy on Twitter your money. That leads me to the petition. Do I think the petition's going to do anything? No. Because petitions never do anything. No one ever cares. What, you're going to put a flyer up in an office in Sony of America? All right, well, rip down. Even if they do it at Shift Up. Like, Shift Up probably knows what's going on, but a thing from a lot of these videos is people have already bought the game. Like, everyone complaining has bought the game, or they've already pre-ordered it. They've already given everyone their money. So, it's over. You're done, sir. Good day. There's nothing you can do about this. They got their money. They don't care at this point. The only way that I can see it being a thing of like Sony trying to save face or the company saving face would be to put the unaltered outfits in as an alternate outfit, I guess. Maybe. Then I'll say Sony didn't have anything to do with it, or that could be a face saving measure. I don't know at this point. Genie's out of the bottle with this stuff. Yeah, it's just bizarre. And like, I lived through a huge petition. I was actually at this event. Royal Rumble 2015. Roman Reigns going over and the crowd was none too happy. Booed him out of the building. The Rock came out, lifted his hand, trying to make him triumphant. Booed the friggin' Rock. And this was before Black Adam, when The Rock could do no wrong. And there is a deluge of people online. Hashtag cancel WWE Network. Canceling my subscription. Never going back to it. Never watching the product again. They're all back. They all came back. No one cared after a couple weeks. And it's going to happen here. No one's going to care about this in a couple weeks. Grummz will keep grifting. Kotaku will keep trying to anti-grift and, I guess, grift in their own way with salacious headlines. And the piss fighting over Gamergate 2 will just continue. And I'm going to want to drink bleach. But on the last point about that old what's-her-face Denim's TV. So there was an interesting argument against her that I heard from 8-Bit Eric. And he said, what if this was a very right-leaning person? Like, what if he went out there and said $30K to take him out? Would you react in the same way? And the obvious answer is, for everyone who's reacting with it's just a joke right now, would say no. And it comes down to team sports. Everyone has their team. So it would just be switched sides, though. It's not like it wouldn't be definitely one side and definitely not the other. And the anti-denim side would be holier than thou. It would be them going, oh, this guy's just joking. If, say, like Tim Pool said the same thing. If Tim Pool said the same thing, then the anti-denims crowd would be going, look, Tim was obviously joking. And then, the more liberal side of Twitter would be going, Tim Pool's at it again. He's spreading hate speech. He's spreading threats. Take his channel down. That goes against TOS. So it's just going to be the same dumb hypocrisy either way. And that's why it doesn't matter. Like, she's trying to save face and save her account again from getting banned, whatever. But, yeah, like saying, what if it was the other side? Well, then it would just be role reversal and everyone would still be doing the same goddamn thing. So nothing would change at that point. But yeah, this is very interesting. It is very much a shit show. And I can almost guarantee we'll be following it for at least a few more weeks. But with that being said, guys, I want to thank all of you out there for checking out this episode of the podcast. Please leave comments below. Tell me where you stand on this whole Grummz StellarBlade thing. Let me know below how wrong and stupid I am. If I'm too woke, if I'm too righty, if I'm too whatever, let me know. Beat me up. I don't care. Hell, you might even make it on this show as a comment of the week. Let's have some fun with this. The Rush beer, super good. Once it warms up, it's still very malty. The breadiness almost goes away. It just goes into pure malt with a hint of hops at the back end, but it's extremely smooth and extremely drinkable. So I definitely recommend it, especially now that it's available all over in the United States. And yes, with that, hopefully Brian will be back next week we can get back to normal. I don't have to use this damn equipment setup anymore that is making my life hell, and we can keep doing what we do here on this podcast. Remember, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, go sub, go like, go comment, and until next time, guys, cheers.